I'll just start tidying up. All the cartridges have been picked up. Just release this other net. No problems at all. Had some birds decoy very, very nicely. We put the other net up on the inside just to mask all the camera equipment, as you can see. I've got no qualms about using this again.
Jim has been really impressed with the Realtree extra brown and extra grey patterns used in these hides. In his view, they make for excellent lightweight nets.
Just cleared all the cartridges up in there. I had just over 80 shots and killed just over 60 pigeons. Shot at everything was across the field, sensible distance. Had some good shooting. Birds from all different angles. That's what I think pigeon shooting is really about.
The cold, wet weather hasn't exactly helped the team. In fact, at times, it has been a major hindrance.
Well, there we go.
Even so, they've had a really enjoyable day. Considering this particular field hasn't been shot by Jim for more than a fortnight, the pigeons were very wary and proved difficult to decoy.
Here we go.
Great stuff.
Pigeons. What I'll tell you boys is now, while we was in the hide, I had a phone call from the farmer. He let the local publican shoot these on Sunday.
Well, no wonder they were a bit jumpy then.
So has he done himself a favour or not?
Well, it's really strange because some of those birds come straight into the decoys as if they'd never seen a decoy in their life, and the other ones, it was as if, you know, you've got bright orange ones.
Exactly the same our end as well.
Yeah.
Me and the birds we had down there, you know, shot 60 odd down there, but you know, you think you shoot 100 to be honest with you.
We put a bouncer out to see if that would help, and it didn't. I
moved mine twice. I ended up putting mine way out in the field to try and make the birds come on the inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
We had some nice birds decoy late on, but they tend to do that, don't they, anyway?
Lovely, I'll just put this in here, and then we'll
there we go.
go and take it on that cup of tea.
While Jim, Robin and Rob go off to prepare for tomorrow's shoot, let's take a more detailed look at the many different aspects of decoying. Once you've found where the birds are feeding, you need to be able to decoy them with the right pattern. It's imperative that the decoy pattern you put on the ground look as natural as possible to birds coming to your field. It needs to send out the message, "Look at us, we've found stacks of fast food, come and join us." Wood pigeons are flock birds, so the more decoys you can put out, the better. A big pattern does two things. It can be seen from a long way off by birds which are flying out to feed. It puts across the all-important message that there's safety in numbers. So how many decoys do you need to start the day? Jim likes to have a minimum of 25 to 30 to get the ball rolling, and if he can manage it, 50 plus. Big is definitely beautiful where pigeons are concerned, but only if the decoys are set out in a lifelike manner. If the picture from the air doesn't look right, they will steer well clear of your pattern. So how do you put them out on the ground? All you've got to remember is that pigeons love to get to the front of the queue. It's where the most food is. But they won't overfly other birds on the ground to get at it. They simply can't afford to risk a collision with another pigeon as they come in to land. Instead, they will look for a convenient pigeon-free gap to get into. If you don't create that essential space in your pattern, incoming birds will be reluctant to come close enough to your hide and will stay out of range on the downwind edge of the decoys. 9 times out of 10, they will take one nervous look at their friends on the ground, then turn away and land in another part of the field, pulling other birds with them. To make sure you draw pigeons within range of your gun, simply lay the decoys out in horseshoe-shaped fashion so that the crown of the pattern is nearest to your hide. Jim will change the shape of this basic pattern only if the birds or wind demand it. For instance, if pigeons are showing a tendency to leak out to one side of the decoys, he will lengthen one leg of the pattern so that it becomes an elongated L, as wood pigeon don't like overflying birds on the ground, they will now turn along the inside of the pattern and head straight towards you. Freshly shot birds make the best decoys, unlike mass-produced plastic artificials, which look realistic enough, but often shine and glint in bright light or when wet. If you don't have any natural birds to use as decoys, by all means put out a dozen or so artificials to start with, but replace them as soon as you can with any birds you shoot. So let's recap on this fascinating subject. Don't overcrowd the pattern. Leave a couple of yards space between decoys. Don't place decoys head to wind in strict regimented fashion. For every one which does face the wind, put another across it, either to the left or to the right. Aim is to create the impression of a real flock turning this way and that in search of food. Don't have the decoys too close to your hide. The nearest needs to be about 20 yards away. Create a big landing space in the pattern. If birds have to do somersaults and tight turns to get to the head of the queue, it means they haven't got enough space inside the arms of the horseshoe. If so, open it up. 50 to 60 yards from point to point is usually sufficient, but don't be frightened to experiment. Bouncers set on sticks can sometimes prove very effective. The outstretched wings of this natural decoy display the white bars which other pigeons recognize as a bird in flight, or one which is just about to land and start feeding. The golden rule is to set any bouncer well back and to one side of the decoy pattern. If it's too close, incoming pigeons will feel that their landing space is restricted, and they will veer off when they get near it. Don't put too many bouncers out. White wing bars can also be taken as a warning signal that everything isn't right down on the ground, and the flock is about to take off. And don't forget, when shooting over a growing crop, put decoys in a wire cradle so that they can be seen just above the vegetation by other pigeons. Only leave your hide to set up freshly shot pigeons as decoys if dead birds have fallen awkwardly and they are putting off incoming birds. Always bear in mind that if you leave the hide, you will interrupt the flight, maybe for 20 minutes at a time. If you have to do a pickup, make it fast. Yesterday's wind and rain has been replaced with high pressure, bright sun, and very little wind, which means the pigeons will probably feed at first light, hence the reason for Jim being out and about before dawn, setting up.
So what we're doing here, we're trying to look for all the good birds, what's got lovely backs on them. What you don't want is one what's got all the feathers missing right in the middle of the back, or something like that, which looks totally unrealistic. So we just keep all the good birds. What we shoot one day, we keep all the good birds to use for decoys the next day, and do what we can to make things as realistic as possible. Make a big wide pattern here. The wind's gone more behind us, and obviously the more area and the wider the pattern you can to get the birds in, much more chance you've got getting them to come to the decoys. That should do. Right, and what we're doing today, the wind has gone due southwest, directly behind the hide. So we're going to make a big wide horseshoe pattern again. Where we were shooting yesterday, the wind was more south-southeasterly. Today it's gone southwest, which is fully behind the hide, so the birds should come straight at us today, which should make it much, much easier shooting. I'll just get on with this job. Still using cradles on the drilling. Not many people do that, but I still think that if you've got a few birds up in the air or well presented like this, you can still see them from much further distances, especially if it's a sunny day and you're getting reflection off the ground. These are just gardening sticks or kebab sticks we use sometimes, or even wires 9 inches long under the bird's beak, pressed into the ground. You can either have the heads up high or you can push him down there like that. And also I've noted from yesterday, that bird has been feeding on the rape. And as a ministry say, they eat 4 or 5 ounces of green a day, If you get 2 or 3 thousand of the pigeons descend on your field, you can just see how much they eat and how much damage they do.
As Jim predicted, the birds did start to flight early to this field of drilled corn. They make a beautiful sight as they fly against the sun-tinged early dawn sky. Unfortunately, the very light wind means that they are also flying high, and it takes all Jim's skill to shoot them consistently.
No intent on stopping. The first one of the day. At this moment in time, the birds are trying to come to the field. I think it's still too dark for the birds to see the decoys. They're probably going to these city trees just sitting behind me. I can imagine they'll try and decoy another half an hour as the day gets lighter. In front. Yeah, what we really predicted, 500 or 600 birds come from the main wood for the first feed of the day at about 6:30. And we've suggested this might be happening, a change in the feeding patterns. Up until last week, the birds were very, very predictable and reliable, and all of a sudden they've gone missing. So that's why today we're here at 6 o'clock set up to try a new tactic to try and outwit the birds. And it looks what they've been doing is feeding 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, going back into the woods, resting up all day and coming back for a late feed, probably 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Hence why we're trying the new tactic. 11 o'clock.
Now let's join Jim and Robin as they discuss the tactics of hide building.
Well, here we go, Robin. You're talking about hides back there?
These are the hides I like. You don't have to do anything with them, do you?
No, 2 seconds and you're ready. Small pruning saw, small pair of secateurs, 5 minutes work. We certainly don't need a lumberjacking crew in when you descend on a farmer's property. But absolutely no problems here at all. Small hawthorn hedge, couple of dog roses.
All woven in?
Just half cut and woven in. Ready-made hide.
I suppose the thing is, for anyone that's going to build natural hides, is not to overdo it, because some farmers go absolutely
blazing mad if they find holes cut in the hedges, don't they?
Well, you don't want to be cutting this type of thing down, that's for sure.
No, that's right.
But these are young